All right, guys. So I wanted to make it a little short video from 4.1, the notes. And this is what I use in Algebra 2. So I'm really just doing this so that you guys can see last year what I did with Algebra 2 and how it's the same thing this year. So first thing I taught you is that growth functions always look like this, and decay functions always look like that. And then we went through to determine what is a growth or decay. So if your b, so the number of the exponent is bigger than 1, we call it a growth. If b is less than 1, we call it a decay. So these down here, this one right here, 1/3 would make this a decay because it's less than 1. This is 2 to an x, so that's a growth. 3/8 is less than 1, so decay. Now remember this one last year, tricky, x to a negative was 1 over x, or 1 over 7 to the x. So that's really a decay. This again would flip it, so that'd be 8 to the x, so we call this a growth. And then 2/3 is a decay. So first thing you always got to determine is if you have a growth or decay when we're graphing. And then the second thing we have is our movement. Remember, h still goes opposite left and right. Our k still goes up and down when we graph this. If a is negative, we're going to flip it over the axis, so it would look like that. Remember, or it would look like this if it was a flip. A is also your y-intercept. So whatever a is without the sign in front of it, so not the negative, y, that would be your y-intercept originally. And then your points always made you guys just do your y-intercept. But this year we're also doing a second point, which is always 1, and then your second is whatever your a times b is. So down here, let's see just a few of them. So this would be a growth. 2/3 or 3/2, that's a 1.5, so it's still a growth. 2 to an x is a growth. 2/3 would be a decay. 1/4 a decay. All right, so then right here, my y-intercept is 1/2. So when I would graph this, I'd put it 1/2. It's a growth, so I just made you sketch it like this last year. So now we're just asking you to write one more point up here, which is the 1, comma, multiply these together. So 3 times 1/2 would be 1.5. So then your second point would be 1, comma, 1.5. And see, it still goes through the line I was making you guys graph last year. So growth, and then, so originally with no movement, I had you guys, the y-intercept is a 1 out here. So we have it like this. All right, and then negative flips it over the y-axis, so it really is looking like this. So here's your graph. To get the second point, we're gonna have 1, comma, and multiply these together, gives you a negative 1.5. So right there. All right, so this one right here, a growth, y-intercept is 3 to growth, so I had to do like this. We need to go right 1, that movement is right 1. So your original point, if you wanted the other point, is going to be 1, comma, multiply these together, you get a 6. 3, 1, 2, 3, so 1, 6 right there. And move both of those dots right 1. So move this right 1 and that right 1. And then there are your new functions. So again here, my y, it's a decay, my y-intercept's the imaginary 1 right there. And there's no movement, so it looks like that. So your second point would be 1, comma, 2/3. So 1, 2/3 right there. I'll do one more. So my y-intercept is 3, and it was a decay, so it had looked like this originally. So we have the dot right there. My second dot then would be 1, comma, multiply these together, you get 3/4. And then I need to move both those dots up 2. So to make that 2.75. And remember, that is your asymptote, so do not cross the line of 2. Okay, I'm going to do one, that's good. So I'm going to change this to a positive 2 real quick, and then we're going to do this one. And so this is a growth, y-intercept of 2 with no before movement. So growth, y-intercept of 2. So now I need to move this graph down. Oh, wait, in the second dot. So we have this dot. The second dot would be 1, 6. Okay, so now I need to move this dot down 3 and left 1. Remember that negative 3 is your new dotted line. Remember how I taught you guys to do that? Put your new dotted line at that number right there. And so now we need to take this dot and go 1, 2, 3, right 1. 1, 2, 3, right 1. So that is how we do what we learned from last year.